In a crowded hospital ER, a triage nurse dumps an older man's backpack, spilling a small urn and his late wife's ashes onto the floor. A registrar on a final warning walks away from her station, breaks policy, and gathers the ashes into a specimen jar, facing immediate pushback and loss of hours. Quiet acts ripple outward as routines shift and small, lasting changes take root without fanfare. Just a quick note before we begin: share this with a friend, and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. It always amazes me how far these stories travel. The nurse flipped the man's backpack upside down. A water bottle clanked, a comb skittered, and then a small metal cylinder hit the linoleum. The lid popped. A soft grey bloom spread across the floor. People went quiet. Someone's phone camera rose and then dropped. "Sir, you can't bring unknowns back here," the nurse said. Her voice was tight, not cruel, just done. "Policy says bag check. We've had sharps. Stand up. Don't block triage." The man didn't stand. He blinked like the light hurt and reached for the grey with both hands. "That's my wife," he said, not loud, just true. The powder clung to his fingers. Mara watched through the plexiglass. Intake desk, badge clipped to her scrub top, a cheap gel pen in her hand. She had been filling out the 5th form this hour. The night had a cough to it. Vents rattling, fluorescent hum, the sticky click of footsteps. 2 gurneys rolled past, one with a boy who kept saying, "I'm fine," with his mouth and nothing with his eyes. Mara saw the ash bloom across the linoleum. She saw the nurse's jaw flex and the security guard shift his weight. She saw the man's coat, wrong for June, flat with old rain. She also saw the clock and the red dot that meant cameras were live. She had been told to stay behind glass. After last week's meeting, her lead had said it twice. No more stepping out, not even to hand someone a tissue. "Boundary," she'd said. "You have a final written, Mara. You vanish from that stool and I can't cover you." If she stood up now, it could be it. Hours cut. No more night differential. The rent was due on the 1st, which was 3 days away. Her kids' field trip form still sat on top of the microwave with a blank where the donation amount went. The man moved like he was underwater. A hospital sock slid past his knee, someone's, not his. The nurse pulled a red biohazard bin closer with her foot. "Sir, please." She looked past him at the line. Someone coughed a fake cough. A woman bolted for the bathroom with a hand on her mouth. A baby started up and was shushed back down. Mara set the pen down. She could hear the lead's voice in her head. She could see the email subject lines in the morning, her name in them like a bruise. She stood up from the registrar desk. The plexiglass door stuck halfway like it always did. She hip-checked it open. The security guard, a big guy with a kind face and flat feet, raised his eyebrows once. "Hang on," Mara said, to no one, to everyone. She went to the supply cupboard without thinking and grabbed sterile gauze, a bottle of saline, and one of the hard plastic specimen jars with a white lid. She swiped a pack of purple gloves from the top of the machine where they always sat, because the box under the desk jammed. She dropped to her knees next to the man. The floor was cold through her scrubs. The ash had a fine grit, like flour that had seen steam. The man's breath smelled like coffee and thyme. She snapped on gloves and reached for the grey, careful as if it were glass. She didn't look up at the phones or the nurse or the security guard. "I've got it," she said, soft, mostly to the man. "It's okay, don't," the nurse said. "Mara, stop. Don't use hospital supplies on personal property." Her voice wasn't loud. It carried. She was tired and protecting what she thought she had to protect. "Also, you cannot leave your station." "I'm on the clock," Mara said, and heard how that sounded. She met the nurse's eyes. "I'm clocking out." "Back to your desk, Mara," the nurse said. Her own hands hovered, like she wanted to fix what she had just broken and didn't know how without making it worse. A man in a flannel jacket near the door muttered something about rules. A woman in a headscarf shook her head and looked at the ceiling. The security guard took a half step forward, then stopped. Mara twisted the specimen jar open. The lid stuck. She used her teeth and then thought better and used the edge of her badge to pry it. She poured a little saline onto gauze to tack together the lighter pieces. She slid the grey off the tile with the stiff edge of a folded registration form, like moving sugar off a counter. She filled the jar slow, tamping it down so it wouldn't cling to the sides. "Chain of custody on unknown substances," the guard said. Not to her, to the room, to the camera. It was the script. "We shouldn't be doing this." "Then write me up," Mara said, and her voice shook once and then held. She wasn't brave. She was decided. She handed the man a spare pair of gloves without looking up. "Hold the jar," she said. He took it with both hands. They were shaking. "We'll get you a better lid," she added, and felt silly as soon as she said it. The lead appeared, hair up, tablet in hand, the kind of person who always carried a pen behind her ear. "Mara, inside, now." She blinked twice at the floor, at the jar, at the man. You could see the math happening behind her eyes. Patients, staffing, incident reports, the night never ending. "I'm clocking out," Mara said again, louder. She got to her feet, peeled off her gloves, and pressed the time clock on the tablet the lead held out. The screen chimed. Her badge deactivated with a beep she felt in her teeth. She set it on the edge of the window ledge. The lead's XL had a small whistle in it. "Your shift ends early," the lead said. "We'll talk in the morning. Leave the jar." "No." The man said. It was the first thing he said that wasn't about his wife. He clutched the plastic like it could run. Mara stood between the man and the red bin, which was dumb because nobody was reaching for the jar now. "He can come to the family room," she said. "I'll sit him there. I'll clean the floor." She could feel heat traveling up her neck to her ears. She tried to breathe slower. The triage nurse looked at the ceiling tiles as if one might have a hole to crawl into. The lead pinched the bridge of her nose. 60 seconds, she said. "No escorts. And you're off the clock." She looked at the security guard. "You didn't see this?" He nodded once. His radio crackled, and he turned the volume down. Mara touched the man's elbow. "Come on," she said. He let her lead him, jar in his hands like a lantern that didn't glow. They walked past the vending machines to a small door with a sign that said, "Family." She should not have a key off the clock. Her badge was dead. She stuck her shoe in the lower crack and bumped the handle with her hip, and the latch slid open because the thing had never closed right. In the family room, she set the label jar on the table. The label was hospital white with a stripe of purple. In a Sharpie that bled a little, she wrote cremains because that was the word she had heard, and it looked wrong on the plastic. She drew a small heart without thinking and regretted it immediately, then left it because crossing it out felt worse. She clicked on the lamp, the one with the warm bulb. The room was beige and soft on purpose, with a box of tissues and a basket of coloring books. No one used. The air didn't smell like bleach in here. It smelled like dust and paper. "I shouldn't have." The nurse began from the hall, and then didn't finish. Footsteps passed, fast. Someone called code hospitalist, and a door opened hard against a stopper. The world went on doing what it did. Mara brought a blanket from the warmer in the hallway and draped it over the man's shoulders. He was hollow in the cheeks, handsome in a way that didn't care if anyone saw. He looked down at the jar like his eyes were sore. "What's your name?" Mara asked. "Evan," he said. He swallowed. She was Nora, 43 years. She liked the ones with the foil tops, he added, nodding toward the vending machine, like he meant pudding cups or coffee creamers. Who knew? His voice had a way of breaking on the last word and then stitching itself back up. "You want water?" Mara asked. He shook his head. He needed it anyway. She brought it. She went back to the floor and cleaned. No flourish. Gauze, saline, more gauze. The grey left faint echoes in the grout which she blotted until the echoes were small. She saw a few grains that didn't want to let go and picked them with the corner of a tissue and pressed them into the jar. When it was all done, she wiped her knees on her scrub pants and straightened her hair with 2 fingers. At the bottom of the bag, under a folded sweater, she found a thin folder. Hospice. A discharge summary with a date from last week. A bus ticket to a lake he had circled in ink. A photograph of 2 younger people at a place with a rail and water behind it, a crack across the bottom where it had lived in a wallet for too long. A key on a shoelace. A paper with a recipe on it. Sauce with too many exclamation points. She put the folder back the way she found it. The man's life was already too much on the ground. She zipped the bag and brought it to the family room. He slept for a while, upright, hands around the plastic. The blanket slid from one shoulder to the other. His mouth opened a little like he had something else to say later. Mara sat in the chair across and watched the second hand on her watch jerk its way round a circle. She checked her phone and didn't look at her texts. The lead came in without knocking, left a paper cup of coffee on the table, and left. She looked like she had swallowed a metal ball. It was the closest she could get to a truce tonight. When he woke, Evan's eyes were clearer. "You work here?" he asked. "Not right now," she said. "I will again tomorrow, maybe." She smiled and it felt lopsided. "Where are you headed?" He tapped the bus ticket with his thumb. She wanted water. he said. She said, "If you put me in a cemetery, I'll haunt you." She laughed so hard at that. We met at the lake at a picnic. I brought potato salad with too much mustard. She ate it anyway. Mara nodded. "We have tape," she said. "So the lid won't come off again." She wrapped the seam of the jar with clear tape all the way around and then around again. She tied a piece of gauze like a ribbon, because it was what she had. When he stood, he was steadier. He put on his coat, even though the night breathed warm through the doors. He held the bag carefully. The jar sat on top, secure, wrong, as good as it could be for now. By Monday, a sign at Triage was taped to the glass. It said, "If you have sensitive personal items, ask for a keepsake bag." Under the desk, there was a box of small velvet pouches someone had ordered with petty cash, the kind that usually held jewelry. The nurse had a scoop and a stack of index cards in her drawer, stupid and smart at the same time. In the break room, a sticky note curled at the edges read, "For last Thursday, no name." Under it, someone had left a tin of cookies and a new box of gloves in purple and small. The security guard started saying, "We can secure sealed items for you," instead of, "You can't bring that in." He said it so much it became the way he said it, even when the camera wasn't on. The charge nurse added a line to the night huddle. "Check the bag with your eyes, not your hands, and ask before you touch." Volunteers began offering to hold the phones so patients could call their people. A doctor with tired hair carried a paper sack for a teenage kid all the way to the CT elevator because the kid's hands were busy holding his dignity together. Mara's hours were cut that week. They said, "Budget." She felt the slash all the way down to her toes. She picked up a per diem shift on a different floor. She learned the names of the respiratory therapists who had night coffee and extra granola bars. She found $5 in a laundry machine, and it paid for her kid's field trip donut. She never said sorry to the nurse, and the nurse never said sorry to her. They nodded at each other like people in the same storm with different umbrellas. One night, the nurse slid a small ceramic container into Mara's hand without words, the kind from the gift shop, with a lid that closed with a little click. It was blue. It fit in a palm. No receipt. 2 weeks later, she saw Evan again. He wasn't a patient. He had come in with a paper grocery bag and that same coat. He waited at the desk and didn't tap or sigh. When Mara looked up, he lifted the bag and said, "They were right. It's too much mustard." He had made potato salad. He left it with the volunteers. The jar he had brought last time had a different lid now, blue, smooth, whole. When he left, he touched the sign at Triage like a person touches a doorframe when they go through it. For luck or for nothing. Mara stepped outside to the concrete bench near the smokers who weren't supposed to smoke there. The air was thin and cooler than inside. She had ash under her nails that wouldn't wash out for days. She liked that for now. She thought of the way the grey had moved when the saline hit it, how it had gone from dust to weight and back again. She didn't think about emails. The first light slid across the tile. It made a line of gold under the door that grew and then faded as a gurney rolled over it. Someone laughed in the hall, short and real. In the family room, the lamp clicked off on its timer, and the plastic lid on a jar caught the low sun for a second and a half and then gave it back.